falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling. Shouldn't be trusting me, I could be making it all up, you know. Out of control, you don't know me. I'm a danger to myself. Out of control.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is that you are tuning in. This is Unapologetically Me, featuring me. No special guest, just me. Oh my gosh, I'm going delirious because I'm just making these videos one right after another because I am so behind. But thank you again for your patience with all of that, my current subscribers. And if you are new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. This is video number 7. So if you want to go back and check out some of my beginning videos if you don't know anything about this case. Otherwise, if you already are caught up and this is just, you want to hear someone else's, spiel, then here we go. Moving on to day 2 of AH's testimony. There are tons of hearsay objections during day 2. They also spent a lot of time up at the bench talking to the judge as well. And, I'm just like, welcome to Johnny's world, because they did the same thing to him. Object, hearsay, 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 hearsay. So some of the things that AH talked about that Johnny Depp would do, I can really empathize with. And not just because I'm an empath and I believe her, but because I was married to someone like that. And I took photos and videos of him as well because he was so charming. And just chill, whenever shit would hit the fan, that people always blamed me, and I looked like the crazy one. So, and a lot of times he wouldn't remember doing certain things, and he would gaslight the shit out of me the next day. So I needed proof to show him that he was in fact saying and doing these things. So, I have to say, my audio, video, and photos were a hell of a lot more than what we've seen so far in this case, which is why I really, really question whether or not anything physical really did happen on his behalf, because I feel like she'd have it. I feel like she'd have something. And so anyway, I can understand some of this. The thing is, where's the evidence? She has zero evidence of any physical AB or S, A. But, other than him calling her a name here and there, he hardly even raises his voice in any of the audio recordings that have been played to us so far. Now, I don't know if they have the like a so-called smoking gun and they're going to pull a rabbit out of a hat at some point, but so far we have not heard any audio or seen anything that is any evidence that he ever laid a hand on her or that he was ever the aggressor in this relationship. So, of all this audio, we don't have that. And you would think that if she was getting AB'd as often as she is claiming, that she would have done something. Set up a camera, at least had, her phone on record every time she would approach him. I downloaded certain apps on my phone, and so that they were very easily accessible, but also he couldn't see them. He couldn't find them. So, they were hidden apps, and they were, audio recorders. And, and I would press play, whenever he happened to be in a mood. And, you don't even hear me speak really throughout the whole entire, it's all him raging. So it's like, I understand it, but it's like you would have something. I don't understand how you wouldn't, if you're the type of person that is really trying to capture things. And she says all of these apologies are from physical AB that she endured, but there's no way she can prove that. He never mentions laying a hand on her in any apology, audio or text. The texts say we, most of the time, not I, meaning that he's alluding to the fact that he felt hurt by her as well, that she was a perpetrator as well. He'd say things like, we cannot get like that anymore, and I'm sorry, that I blah, 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 but we cannot keep doing this to each other. And she does admit on the stand to yelling, name calling, screaming at him, throwing things at him, hitting him, but says that there was only one time that she ever landed a punch. And the rest of this was self-defense, swinging and flailing. But the audio I put out, in my opinion, says otherwise. And another thing about the audio, why wouldn't she have set him up on audio confession? She talked about this pattern of every time they would get into something really major that he would just, shower her with apologies and all of that. But anything text or audio, we don't have him apologizing for anything specific. And I don't understand why she wouldn't have set him up in an audio confession if he was always so apologetic afterward. I mean, that would be the perfect time to hit record, put your phone under the couch or something and be like, why did you hit me? Why did you SA me? Why did you do A, B, and C very specifically? And have him be like, well, I don't know why I did it or whatever. But at least admit that he did it because he's apologizing to it. We don't have that. Why not? Why not? I don't understand that. She could have said, why did you do these things to me? And he would have answered. And that would be somewhat of a confession. And we have none of that. We have all this audio, so much audio. I keep saying it over and over, but we do not have anything like this. And, she clearly set him up with a lot of this audio and, video and photos. And none of these things show any physical violence. It makes no sense. If he was doing these things to her, there would be evidence. She would have gained evidence. She is always looking for evidence. If she could get him in a compromising situation, she recorded it. She took photos of it. So there really is no excuse as to why she doesn't have some type of audio of any of this, in my opinion. She has contradicting stories to Johnny's on everything, except what he has already admitted to that he's done that's bad. She denies the story about the boots that we talked about a couple videos ago. And she denies the ever doing, Coca-Cola. And she denies this that we're going to talk about now. She I wrote this in here. She says all of a sudden, and it makes me crazy because the way to say that is all of a sudden. And anytime people say all of a sudden, it drives me nuts. And she says it so much. And just the fact that she annoys me so much, it just makes it worse. But anyway, so we get to the point where this fight in Australia happens. The infamous missing finger fight. And we've already heard Johnny Depp's side. AH's side is obviously much different. She talks about being very nervous before she got there based off of a phone conversation that she had with Johnny Depp in Dubai on her way. She had a layover. And she also paints herself as this doting wife, whom after arriving begins to pull out food for dinner. And she says that Johnny Depp came up and offered her some MDMA and suggests that they take it together. She says that is what started the first fight. She was completely against doing this. She made it seem as if she was appalled by the suggestion, which is odd because she was a fan of MDMA. And again, we'll get into this one, later on when we, talk about the nurse testimony and things like that. She made it seem like she was appalled by this whole suggestion. And she said that he was drinking red wine at the time. Now, we know from his testimony, he said he was about 18 months sober at the time. And that the first time that he had a drink was when he went downstairs to the bar and took these shots, right? So she said he was already drinking red wine, though. And that she was pissed about it. So she shoved her way past him And she says she doesn't remember the exact sequence of things. Shocking. But that after that, JD shoved her up against the fridge, holding her by the throat, and bashed her against the wall next to the fridge. She then said that she proceeded to slap him across the face, and she stormed off and slammed the door to her bedroom and barricaded it. She said that his doctor or nurse gave her some medication for insomnia and panic attacks, which she attributes all to Johnny's AB. She talks about not wanting to take that medication because she was afraid that if she fell asleep, that Johnny would come in and hurt her, and she wanted to be alert in order to hear if he came in the room or not. And she does end up saying that she finally takes these sleeping pills and she goes to sleep. She says that she woke up the next morning and, like a good wife, no matter what just happened the night before, she tried to make him breakfast because he hadn't eaten and she was concerned. She claims that this is when he started screaming at her out of the blue about Billy Bob Thornton because she had been doing a movie with him and he was accusing her of cheating. And that he was just going off on her just for out of the blue. I mean, she's just trying to make him breakfast after all. So honestly, I don't even feel like going into all of it. I think you get the gist. She basically made herself, like I said before, look out to be this doting, perfect wife who never did anything wrong, and that Johnny Depp was just this monster from hell who did nothing but berate her and put hands on her. And, all the while not looking, the jury in the eye. Not only looking the jury in the eye while she's saying this, but looking Johnny in the eye as well. Which, from my experience, is very uncommon for an AB'd woman to make such strong eye contact with the perpetrator of their AB. And anyone really, for that matter, you're usually after 6 years of that, you're kind of broken down to nothing. Especially if all these things that she said happened. So when Johnny testified, he talked about how a post-nump agreement was the reason for this blow-up argument in Australia, and that AH had been irate about this post-nump. But AH claimed that she's the one who initiated this post-nump agreement and that had set Johnny off, not the other way around. And that he had immediately called her lawyer and fired her, saying that the only way out of this marriage is death. AH claimed that while he was unattached from reality and screaming and yelling about the post-nump, that she decided to go make some steaks and mashed potatoes with spinach for dinner. The next thing she says she remembers is looking for him, stating that when she found him, he was belligerent. And she was back on the chopping block for some reason, though she had no idea why. It was from this post-nump, that she wanted, because she was trying to protect him. And, he just said, no, only death. Death is the only way out of this. That is not what Johnny Depp testified to, and honestly, I believe his testimony. So she said that when she found him, he was making no sense. And he just grabbed her and put her up against the wall again. It's like the same story every time. And he ends up throwing her over a table. And she hit her head hard. She says hard. And that he was calling her names during this time, calling her a slut, a whore, and a fat ass. Also, somehow at the same time, he was taking swigs of wine while looking at her smugly. Okay, it's not okay to call a woman these names, especially your wife. Are you kidding me? Not okay. Verbal AB for sure. But throwing someone over a table while simultaneously taking swigs of wine and looking at her smugly, I'm not quite sure how you can be physically violent and also be sipping wine at the same time. But that's what she said. So her account for the missing finger incident is also quite different than Johnny's account. And actually, she never really gets into how his finger became missing. She claims that he had already been drinking wine, like I said earlier, as well as taking 8 to 10 MDMA pills during the 2 days that she had already been there, and that he hadn't slept or eaten at all. And that when she went to find him this time, he was downstairs at the bar taking shots of liquor. Okay, so now we're kind of where, JD had testified. Sometimes I don't know why I just don't keep calling him Johnny Depp. He's not upset about it. It's AH that doesn't like her name being mentioned. But she said she didn't know what type of liquor that he was drinking, but it was in a clear bottle. And she also said that it was not a handle bottle. What I understand, I call it a fifth. So it was a fifth. Johnny says it was vodka and that there was both. There was the fifth and the handle bottle. But AH said that the second that she saw him, or he saw her, he immediately started yelling to her, "Nobody likes you," and that everybody warned him about her. And she said that she shoved him really hard, but to get him off of her. But yet she said that he was still sitting down when he was saying this. So, I mean, inconsistencies, in my opinion, and, not my opinion. I mean, I'm watching the trial. She said all of this, I'm not making it up. So, yet at the same time, she said he's sitting at the bar. Again, I don't know. So at some point he does get up, she says, and she said that he was punching the wall and grabbing at her, and that he ripped her nightgown, eventually ripping it completely off of her to where she was naked. She said that he was grabbing her breasts and screaming at her that he effing hates her and that she ruined his life. And she also says that at some point there was an antique phone that was hanging on the wall, and that he picked up the receiver and he was like smashing it into the wall. And she felt that he was pretending that that receiver was actually her. And every time it hit the wall, she was like flinching. Feeling like if that were her, that would be her head going into the wall, something like that. Don't quote me on that one. That one I'm not sure, but that's me explaining. And to be honest, I believe that may have happened. I don't know if it happened then, but I kind of believe that happened. That's something that you wouldn't normally make up. And him taking the aggression out on something else other than her. But she says that after he was done with the phone, he grabbed her by the throat and he threw her down on the counter. And she said that she looked in his eyes and that he was no longer there. It was just black. And Johnny was gone. And this is where she goes into the SA with the bottle. And I will spare you on the details of that. However, I can tell you, as an empath, I did not shed one tear while she was making this testimony on the stand to the jury, and neither did she. Not one. Now, normally I can feel through anything. You don't have to be right in front of me for me to feel your emotion. And sometimes I'll just be watching shows, and even though it's an actress or an actor going through it on a movie, I will just be so tore up about it, sometimes to the point where for 3 days all I can think about is this character. And I know that it's not even a real person. This is a real person on the stand, and I can't even feel the emotion. I just feel like she is full of it. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't think it is. Anyway, so she said that she felt this intense pressure, and it looked from her perspective, looking down, like that he was punching her in the pubic bone, because she felt this pressure on the pubic bone. It wasn't pain, but it was pressure, and she could see a movement, and she thought he was punching her. And she says this repeatedly, and she is just sobbing. She is sobbing, and she's very intense and dramatic. And I'm watching this testimony, and I'm looking up close, and I'm just like looking for something to believe. I want to believe her. I want to believe that if someone is this adamant and is going this far and being this dramatic, that it's true. But I'm not seeing it. I am not seeing it. And there are no tears. Again, none. So she also says that, and this whole time she's making 100% eye contact with the jury. And I find that to be so inconsistent with what I know. And without going too much into my own shit, I find it to be inconsistent. Not unheard of, I guess, but not common, not usual. She says that there was glass everywhere, all over the floors, the countertops, that the bottoms of her feet were cut with glass, as well as her arms. Yet there was never any mention of this by AH ever, up until this trial. She said that she tried to leave after this and that Johnny begged her to stay. Eventually, she went upstairs, she took 2 sleeping pills, and she went to bed. She says that she woke up late next morning to Marilyn Manson music just blasting throughout the house and blood and paint everywhere. Messages written in blood and paint everywhere. The entire house was trashed. She also said that there were mashed potatoes everywhere with spinach in it, as well as steak cut up into pieces, raw steak that she was going to cook from the night before, that was cut up in pieces, and that he wrapped it up in pieces of her nightgown. And she talked about how this nightgown was a burgundy nightgown, and it was a gift from Ben King, I believe, and that he wrapped the raw meat in this nightgown. And that's so off that I almost believe that may have happened. And some things I don't know. But either way, I mean, that's crazy. And, Johnny admitted on the stand that he felt like he went through some kind of mental break at that point. And I mean, that's an understatement for sure. And, I mean, to be pushed to this point, and to have these issues, it's sad. It really is sad. And I don't find it funny in the slightest. So she says that there were also broken windows, and when shown photos of these things, she claimed that it had been cleaned up. And I'm showing some of the photos, and she said that it's not as messy as it was in real life. And she, again, for some reason, said she went looking for Johnny again. And she finds him in the study, and he has a bandana wrapped around his hand. And she said that it was then that he held up his hand, unwrapped it, and showed her his missing finger and said, "Look what you did." And she says that she was very concerned at this point because it was a lot of blood. It was all over the house. It was on sheets. It was on the couch. It was everywhere. And so he had lost a lot of blood, and she knew that it had been a long time since the incident had happened. And so she told him that if he didn't call Dr. Kipper right now, that she was going to call 911. And she said that he asked her for a Red Bull, that he called Dr. Kipper, he asked for a Red Bull, but she didn't think that was a good idea. So instead she made him a coffee instead. And when she handed him that coffee, he chucked it at her and it hit the TV, which there's a photo of. And, in regards to the 5-hour audio conversation that was the very first thing I put out on this case, she says that Johnny is the one who took her phone and pressed record on that, and that she only found this recording much, much later in the week, and that the reason that she found it was because it was 5 hours long. It was longer than anything that she would normally record, as far as, their after fights or their arguments would go. And I don't know that I believe that, and I don't know that it matters. That 5-hour audio conversation does not sound like a conversation that a couple would have after one of them SA'd the other one with a bottle of Maker's Mark. I just do not believe that at all. It does not sound like a conversation of anyone apologizing for something that severe. It doesn't sound like she is that upset. It does not sound like that something that severe just happened. It doesn't at all to me. So, AH never told a doctor or a nurse, security, nobody. And at least that's what they testified to. They did not see anything on her. She did not look to have been in any type of altercation. And when asked on the stand about this incident when Johnny lost his finger, everyone who has been questioned has stated that she had 0 injuries after this. And she didn't say anything about any issues with him other than that he had just went ballistic and trashed the house. She never said he laid a hand on her, and she certainly never has ever said anything about any kind of SA until this trial. So that is what else makes me question. So I'm going to end this video. I have 2 more, possibly 3 more that I'd like to get out this week. Hopefully I can. If not, I definitely have enough to keep you guys busy. So I will get those out as soon as possible. But I'm going to wrap up for tonight because I'm wearing the same outfit. And isn't that boring? I think it's boring when you wear the same shit. But anyway, I will talk to you guys in video 8. So keep fresh, with what's going on with the trial. But if not, that's what I'm here for. So I'm trying to just bring you guys the most important things and also educate you along the way. So if you learned anything, then and if you, want to hear the rest or anything else that I put out, I am actually working on 2 other cases that I want to put out as soon as this trial kind of finishes. So I'm definitely got lots of stuff coming. Can't always guarantee when it's going to come out. For some reason, my kids have decided to have some issues. I'm just kidding. I love my children so very dearly. But anyway, I'm going to end this now, and I will talk to you guys later.